Good morning, class. Today we are going to learn Mendel's first experiment. Why he chose garden peas? Because it has bisexual flowers, which was easily available for him in his locality. First of all, you have to write the phenotype of the parental generation. You can see here P1. P1 means first parental generation. So Mendel chose for the first parental generation tall pea plants to collect pollen grains. Dwarf pea plants he chose for egg. Phenotype of the P1 generation, the first parental generation of the garden peas, tall versus dwarf. What is the next step? You will write the genotype. Genotype is the genetic expression, how the factors or the alleles are for the phenotype tall, capital T, capital T. For a trait or a character, a pair of factors needed. That is why you will write 2 times. Here we are taking the genotype homozygous version or pure line breed. What is the meaning of that? Both the alleles or the factors are dominant for the tall pea plant. Otherwise, capital T, small t also can be the heterozygous version of the tall pea plant because one dominant gene it can bring the expression. But here we will use capital T, the homozygous version only because he was using the pure line breed of the plants. It means the tall pea plants will contribute only dominant factors capital T and capital T. So you must be wondering how he knows that is they do not have the heterozygous version capital T small t. He proved it by growing many generations of tall pea plants by self-pollinating. For example, suppose only tall pea plants generation. He did self-pollination among them and he got the next generation tall. But he was not satisfied just by seeing 1 or 2 generations after that. He tried in many generations of tall pea plants till he got the entire population of the plants tall. Hundreds of plants he tried and ultimately when he got the whole progeny all tall, then he confirmed that is a pure line breed. Using the genotype pure line breed, that is a homozygous version. For the dwarf genotype can be only small t, that is the homozygous version only. There is only one genotype possible for dwarfness because 2 recessive genes can make dwarfness here, isn't it? If one capital T comes, that will bring the phenotype tall. So here is no other option, small t only. Now what is the next step? We are going to show the gametes. Since this is a plant, sexually reproducing plant, what do you call the gamete or the reproductive cell? Male reproductive cell? Pollen, isn't it? So we are going to show the pollen genotype. You know that in the gametes, the factors remain in single, isn't it? So you will write only one form. How to represent the gametes genotype? What you have to do, you write the factors, the letters like this separately, encircle it. This is how he represented the genotype of the gametes. This is to represent the genotype of the tall pea plants, pollens. That is, he took the pollen grain from the tall pea plants. Representation here, that is the egg of the dwarf pea plant. What you have to do here? Small t, write separately and circle it. This is how you will represent the gametes. So I repeat, in the experiment, first you have to write the phenotype, then genotype of the parental generation, then you will write the gametes genotype. Suppose this is the carpel and this is the stigma of the pea plant and these are the pollen grains. So what he did, he waited for these pollens to get matured in the anther. Then Mendel himself acted as the agent of pollination. He collected the pollen and dropped over the stigma of the dwarf pea plant's carpel. Dwarf pea plant's flowers carpel, he dropped the pollens. Pollination done successfully. Now you may be wondering how he was sure that this pollen grain he dropped is only going for the further fertilization. For that, what he did, the pea plant's flowers, it is bisexual. It has the same pea flower got stamens and a carpel, isn't it? Mendel removed all the stamens of the dwarf pea plant's flowers. So what is left over? Only carpel left over, isn't it? Then he collected the pollen grain from the tall pea plants and dropped on the stigma of the dwarf pea plant flower. Still there is a chance for other pollen grain of the garden to reach here. For preventing that, what he did, that is after dropping the pollen grains on the stigma of the dwarf pea flowers, he covered the flower with poly bags. And he put some holes in the poly bag so that the plant parts can breathe. So this is how he blocked the falling of other pollen grains. Thus, the pollen grain dropped by Mendel on the stigma of the dwarf pea flowers, now leading towards fertilization. This is the pollen grain which was dropped by Mendel on the stigma of the dwarf pea flower. The pollen grain grows down as a pollen tube, and this is bringing the male nucleus, and this is the ovary region. Inside the ovary there is ovule, and in the ovule there is embryo sac, and this is the position of the egg, So the pollen grain which is brought by the pollen tube enters the embryo sac and fuses with the egg. So the fertilization taken place. Now what would happen to this ovary of the flower? You know it already. The ovary of the pea flower now changes into the pea fruit. You know that pea is a vegetable and the pea fruit has the, what do you call this? Pea seeds, isn't it? These pea seeds will germinate in the soil and give rise to a pea plant, a sapling. Now this pea plant will grow into a matured pea plant. Then only he will be able to notice one character, that is the height of the plant. Now let's see what might have happened at the time of fertilization. How to represent. I told you cross pollination Mendel did among the tall pea plants and the dwarf pea plants. That is the pollen from the tall pea plant versus the dwarf pea plant's egg. It means cross pollination, isn't it? So after cross pollination, fertilization took place, and we have discussed about the post fertilization changes also. Now come back to this portion. This is how the factors of the pollen, and this is how the factors shown in the egg, isn't it? Now let us see what Mendel did. Now Mendel is applying mathematics in science. Cross multiply it. To show the next generation genotype, he did cross multiplication. So the first T you have to make pair with the small t, another small t. Then the second T will make pair with the first small t and the second small t. So this is what you have to do. So first T, let me make pair with this. It will be capital T, small t. First T again will make pair with the second one. So it will be again capital T, small t. Now let us go to the next capital T. Capital T and this small t. Capital T, small t. This will again pair with the other one. So this is how you will represent F1 generation capital T, small t. This is the genotype of F1 generation. Filial generation. Filial means children. So what is this? This is tall. All tall plants he got in the F1 generation. So he was surprised to see the result, because that time people believed both the maternal character and the paternal character will be expressed in the young ones, or a mixture of the characters missing there. the X characteristic, that is the dwarfness, was not expressive in F1 generation. But he was sure that the trait cannot be lost. Now he is trying to make the F2 generation by making F1 generation as the parental generation. For that, what he has to do? He has to wait for these tiny plants to be mature and to flower. Then the flowers are to change into the fruits. Then the fruits make the seeds, and the seeds have to mature. Then they have to germinate and form the next generation, isn't it? Since the plant is a seasonal plant, it takes months of time only. So it was easy for him to watch the next generation. You can see here, first you have written P1 generation, phenotype, genotype, gametes, isn't it? Like that, same way you will write P2 generation. Who is P2 generation now? F1. So F1 generation's phenotype. What is the phenotype? Tall versus tall. This time he is selecting the pollen from the tall pea plant and the egg also from the tall pea plant. That is, in the same plant only he is doing the pollination, in the same pea flower, or in the same pea plants, different flower. What precaution he has to take this time? He has to be careful that there should not be any cross pollination takes place, isn't it? To stop that, again he used the polythene cover to cover the flowers. So he did this time self-pollination in the tall pea plants. For producing F2 generation, he made F1 generation as the second parental generation, P2. Phenotype, tall versus tall. That is pollen grain and the egg, both from the tall pea plant, same plant. We will write here genotype capital T small t versus capital T small t. What is the next step? Gametes, that is the pollen and the egg. For representing the genotype of gametes, again you have to do the same thing. You have to separate the factors and circle it. Same thing here, capital T small t. Again cross multiplication. But this time he adopted self-pollination. He allowed the plants for self-pollination to produce F2 generation. Remember, don't confuse. Cross-pollination for F1 generation, then self-pollination to develop F2 generation. Capital T will make pair with the first capital T here, then the second small t, isn't it? So this capital T and the first capital T, capital T, capital T. Now this has to make pair with the next factor, capital T, small t. Now come to the next factor, small t, capital T. Remember, whenever you write capital and small, you will write the capital letter first. That is why you will write capital T, small t. Then next is small t, small t. This is the result of F2 generation he got. Or let us see the phenotype. What is this? Tall. What is this? Again tall. This is also tall. So that is a homozygous version of tall and two heterozygous version of tall. Altogether 1, 2, 3. How many tall? 3 tall. 2. And what is this? This is one dwarf. He got one dwarf. So this is the ratio he got. 3:1 ratio. Monohybrid ratio he named it. He was focusing only on one characteristic. Mono means one. And that characteristic was the length of the plant. And F1 is a hybrid, that is the heterozygous version, not the pure line one. That is why monohybrid ratio. The phenotypic ratio he got like this. If F1 was the pure line breed, never small t can be here. You know that in F2 generation, 3:1 ratio he got 3 tall, 1 dwarf. That is 75% tall and 25% dwarf. So dwarfness came from F1 generation only. That is, this small t is reappearing in F2. It was hidden in F1. So he proved that the traits cannot be lost. It can be in the dominant form or in the recessive form. So let us discuss rules framed by the scientist Gregor Johann Mendel next. So taking one trait, for example, the height of the plant. He tried with the color of the flower, the shape of the seed, color of the seed, the position of the bud in the pea plants, like somewhere axial, somewhere terminal, like that. He tried with various traits But remember, for the first experiment, for getting the monohybrid ratio, he focused only on one trait at a time. What are the rules he framed based on the first experiment? These rules are known as the rules of inheritance or the principles of inheritance. So let us see the rules framed by Mendel. First one, the law of paired unit. This law states that each trait or a character is designed by two copies of the genetic materials. He named these genetic materials factors. Instead of these factors, we use the term allele. What he said, each trait or character, the blueprint is lying in two copies of factors. One is from the father, the other is from the mother in sexual mode of reproduction. But in the gametes, for example, pollens in case of plants and egg, the female gamete. In the gametes, these factors remain in single, never in pairs. This was the law he framed based on the first experiment, the law of paired unit. What he said? Each trait or character, the blueprint is in two copies of factors. One is paternal factor, other is maternal factor in sexual mode of reproduction. But now we know that these factors are alleles. They are the two copies of a gene, isn't it? We use the term gene. One gene for one character, and one gene has two copies, paternal copy and maternal copy. That is what we call allele. What is the law of dominance? This law states that the factors, that is the paternal and the maternal factors, some are expressive or they bring the characters, whereas the others remain hidden. Even though they are present, they remain hidden or suppressed. He named the expressive factor dominant factor and the suppressed one, the hidden factor, which is masked by the dominant factor, recessive. And he used English alphabets to represent the factors. If a factor is taken as a dominant factor, he used capital letters for that, and this corresponding small letters he used to represent the recessive factors. For example, in F1 generation you have seen capital T, small t. Here capital T is the dominant factor and small t is the recessive factor. Remember, when you represent these factors dominant and recessive, which letter you are using in capital form? The same letters, small letter form only used to represent the recessive one. Now, after learning the first experiment, you know that the factors can be paired in different ways. If both the factors are identical, that is homozygous or pure line, and if both the factors are recessive, then also homozygous, or if one factor is dominant and the other is recessive, that is called a heterozygous or a hybrid. The third law, the law of segregation or law of purity of gametes. Law of segregation. What is the meaning of segregation? Separation, isn't it? This law states that at the time of gamete formation, that is in animals, when the sperms produced in the testis and the eggs produced in the ovaries. In the case of plants, the pollens which are formed in the anther, which is a part of the stamen, the male part, and egg which is developed in the ovule of ovary of a carpel. Then these reproductive organs which produce the reproductive cell, what do you call them? We have already seen in the last chapter reproduction, gonads, isn't it? So when the reproductive cells are produced in the gonads, the factors randomly separate or segregate
from each other and only one copy, either paternal or maternal, enters a gamete. That is, the gametes never possess both the copies, paternal and maternal. Only one copy will be present. What do you call that situation where the chromosomes remain in single, not in pairs? Haploid, n number of chromosomes, isn't it? Whereas in somatic cells, it remains in pairs. According to the law of segregation or law of purity of gametes, what Mendel said? He said, in all somatic cells, one trait is represented by or one trait is designed by a pair of factors. But in the gametes, only one version will be there, either paternal or maternal. Now we understand. For example, Pisum sativum, I said the number of chromosomes in Pisum sativum is 14. That is the diploid condition. That is in full set. But in the pollen of Pisum sativum, 7 will be there, and in the egg, 7 will be there. So that after fertilization, it will become a full set 14. Isn't it? Like in Homo sapiens, our case, you know that. Our chromosome number is 46, 23 from father and 23 from mother. That is, sperm contribution is 23 and egg contribution is 23. So that it will become 46 in the zygote. This is how DNA stability is maintained. Chromosome number is maintained generation after generation, constant. So that's all about the laws framed by Gregor Johann Mendel based on the first experiment. You revise the portions and you have to practice first experiment of Mendel using different traits. One we did, height of the plant. Now you do with color of the seed, shape of the seed and position of the bud, various traits. You try yourself and practice what way Mendel formulated these laws by focusing on different traits. Remember, one time only one trait. Next class we will go to the next experiment. Thank you, children.